I think comparisons between individual sports and team sports are slightly difficult to make. In a Scottish context, I think Celtic's victory in the European Cup in 1966 is one of the great achievements, an improbable achievement. With a team of Scots, all of whom were born within 30 miles of Glasgow. That's the sort of thing that is unlikely to be replicated in the modern game. Andy Murray's triumph is in many ways almost as improbable. But I think, sometimes we get a bit too down on ourselves. Yes, it is astonishing and improbable that a Scotsman has won the men's singles at Wimbledon, but let's not forget that other countries have also found champions from improbable places. I mean, before Bjorn Borg, Sweden had no great record of tennis accomplishment. Before Roger Federer, no Swiss man had ever won a Grand Slam title. And indeed, actually, before Novak Djokovic's emergence, no Serb had won a men's Grand Slam tennis title either. So yes, it is improbable. Yes, it is remarkable. And yes, it's something that deserves all the celebration and salutations that Murray's achievement has achieved. But it is not perhaps quite as unique as we are wont to feel in the sort of 24 hours after this magnificent triumph.
And Danny, a remarkable Scottish triumph there. You were writing in Scotland Sunday yesterday about watching him grow up. You feel like you almost know him. You've seen him rise up to this level. And you were writing about those kind of unique Scottish characteristics that you've spotted in Murray. Do you think those characteristics that many of us Scottish men probably have helped him reach those heights?
I think some of them have, yes. I think, certainly the kind of work ethic that some of us would call Calvinist, and one of the remarkable things about him, I think, is that he places so much value on that he, in every single interview you hear him speak about not his talent, but I had to work for every shot. It's been tough, I've worked. That's quite a Scottish value, I think, and something that's definitely helped. But I think perhaps there are other characteristics, such as early in his career, the psychological flaw, one might call it, of feeling that you won't win, that you can't win, that Scots sometimes have maybe held him back a little bit at that early stage.
And Rob, his character. What kind of flaws were there? Was he able to iron them out to enable him to reach this pinnacle?
I think the key thing for Andy Murray was leaving Scotland. He went at 15 to the Casals Academy in Barcelona, and I think that broadened his outlook and made him realise, wait a minute, I'm pretty good at this game. I can do this. He was playing against better players. And what you can't forget is he was winning things like the Orange Bowl in America at a young age. And he made the transition from a young top-class player to a full-blown professional player. So I think that the only problems he had in the beginning was believing in himself, which as a Scots is something part of our race. But the fact he left at such a young age, that brought everything out of him and gave him more confidence. I think that's been a major key for him. You can talk all about, it's great for Scotland to win this, which it is, but it's all down to Andy Murray and his team and his guts to go to Barcelona at 15 and say, I'm going to try and better myself.
So, Alex Massey, anything in the Scottish character do you think that perhaps holds us back from achieving that kind of success? A BBC4 documentary exploring the ancient Greeks was pointing out their sporting success. They always had to be number one when competing. There was no room for number two.
If there's anything that holds us back, it's our habit of making excuses for poor performances. We use the fact that Scotland is a small country, population of only 5 million people, and we use the fact that the climate is not always conducive to outdoor sporting activity as crutches to explain away sporting failure and to somehow make it seem as though we can't legitimately expect to do better than we do. There is a certain love of the heroic failure, but when you actually look at most of those failures, you discover that they were not nearly as heroic as the myths that surround them suggest they should be. But there are plenty of other small countries that have sporting success. There are plenty of other small countries with poor climates that have sporting success. And I think one of the things to be drawn from Andy Murray's success, if anything can be, extrapolated from an individual's determination to improve and to win, his hatred of losing, it is that if you want to succeed, you must set the very highest standards and expectations for yourself, and you must never be satisfied with where your game happens to to be at any particular point. You must constantly be searching for improvement. And we see that with Murray throughout his career as he's moved from coach to coach, thinking that perhaps I've run my course with this coach, now I need to work with someone else who can help take me to the next level, whether that was Brad Gilbert or now more recently Ivan Lendl. Murray has never ever made an excuse for failure. He recognises that failures are sometimes down to poor luck or circumstance, but fundamentally the solution to failure lies within. And I think if we have to learn anything from Andy Murray, it's that we need to set higher standards for ourselves when it comes to sporting expectation across the board, whether that's in individual sports or in team sports.
Right. Interesting, Rob, and perhaps then, if we're from Alex's analysis of Murray, then a real role model for other young sports people in Scotland then.
Yeah, but you have to take it as a package. His mother is a role model for families and parents as well. She drove him. She said, Andy, let's get out of the Scottish environment, let's go to Barcelona. He is a role model. People will be picking up tennis rackets all over Scotland over the next couple of days, especially in this weather, which is fantastic, and thinking, I can be Andy Murray. To be honest, most of them can't be, because they don't have the drive, they don't have the thing in place which he has, which is a great family backup and a perfect system whereby he's come through the ranks. I'd love to think that another Scottish tennis player will come up in the next 5-10 years. I'm not convinced, because the key in this for me is Judy Murray. If you look at that, there's a golden generation of Scottish tennis players. Jamie Baker, who's just retired, Judy had working with him as well. I'd like to think this could happen again, but I'm not entirely convinced.
And Danny, what about you listening to that in terms of Scotland? Anything in our national characteristics that hold us back? Do you think that we won't be able to repeat that kind of achievement?
Well, if anything, the role model thing is the most important. I mean, he's shown us that it is possible, and hopefully, and building on other Scottish successes like Chris Hoy's and Catherine Granger, that it should be becoming clear that it is possible, and also that it's about keeping going and not giving up too easily. I think he's a fantastic role model and a really welcome one, because when you look around football, which is maybe more the sport that most children would be looking towards, there aren't enough role models, are there? Everything about his character is something that you could say to your children, emulate him.
Now, Alex, talking of Scottish characteristics, talking of Scotland, and there was one particular saltire that was very much in evidence at Wimbledon yesterday. We won't dwell too much on it, but Mr Salmon did have the saltire in Mrs Salmon's bag. Was he right to bring it out at that point, do you think?
Oh, I mean, I thought it was mildly vainglorious, but really, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter at all? No, it doesn't. I mean, this is a mini Tempest in an espresso cup. I mean, really, we should have better things to talk about and better things to worry about.
I just want to get Danny's view on that as well. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm all for waving saltires, and I've waved them myself, but I think that for a First Minister to when he knows the camera is going to be on him, to produce the flag like that was opportunistic, I do.
And Rob, what did you think about it?
I thought it was a bit naff, but that was a bit, I mean, it was a bit, whoa, I can see his point, hey, remember that Andy Murray is Scottish, but I think you'll probably look at that and Alex Salmon going, ooh, I looked a bit naff.
OK, Alex, kind of leaving that argument aside now, Andy Murray has been very diplomatic on the idea of Scottish independence. He was being asked on one news programme today, and he said, well, it takes a lot of thought, and when he was pressed further, he said, let's just leave it at that. Is that probably the ideal way for him just to behave, just to be diplomatic about it?
Yes, there is no upside in Andy Murray getting drawn into political controversies of that sort. The great American basketball player Michael Jordan was once asked, why do you not take a stance on a given political issue? And he pointed out, well, the other lot buy sneakers too, sneakers endorsed by Michael Jordan. Why should Andy Murray be expected to have a coherent political position either side of the argument when it comes to Scotland's constitutional future, and far less why should he be expected to express it? I mean, his political views are for him and him alone, and I have no interest in them particularly, and I doubt many people outside the self-obsessed media and political bubble have any interest either.
And Rob, have you spoken much to him about his political views?
No, I don't think many people have. I mean, there was a famous occasion when he I'd say he was misquoted when he said he didn't want England to win the World Cup, or he'd be going for them to games, because he was sitting next to Tim Henman, so I would call that banter. And I think he's learnt from that, and I really don't think that his political views will really come into focus. Can I just say, though, if he did come down on one side or the other, my goodness, that, you know, the stage he's at just now, what an impact it would have.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Danny, we were talking about Mr. Salmon, of course, but there are plenty of politicians involved in courting Andy Murray. We saw him at Downing Street today, and all the party leaders were there. Politicians do like to be seen with success, don't they?
It was quite reminiscent of Blair and his whole Cool Britannia thing, wasn't it? With the spread some of your glitter dust on me kind of thing. You know, if he can use that to his advantage, then that's for the sport, then that's all to his credit. I think he's shrewd enough to shy away from being used as a pawn, though. And
also the talk about him getting a knighthood. I'm all for it, but can we not just say, let's give Andy a knighthood when he retires? It just seems a wee bit too early just now. He's got a lot more to give. You know, give it when he's finished his career, but just guarantee you'll definitely get one.
OK, and just one word, Alex, politicians love this feeling of confidence. Do you think it plays into economic confidence as well, do you think?
No.
That's great. Alex Massey, Danny Garvelli, Rob Robertson, thank you all very much for joining me. Thank you.